Hello, 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 hello. Thank you so much for everyone who is checking out this episode and everyone who is going to check it out. I truly, truly appreciate it. Make sure that you say hello so that I can acknowledge you and we can make it do what it do. So, hello to everyone who is scrolling in. Hope everyone is doing well and all that kind of stuff. Tonight, I'm not going to prolong the time here because um, I got a lot of information I want to try to get to and get through. So we're not going to prolong the time. So I am going to jump straight into it. And I do appreciate everyone who is showing up and all that kind of stuff. So, hello, NW. A few more people are watching. So hello to you as well, to everyone who's watching and all that kind of good stuff. All right. So there's a few things that I wanted to talk about. So first, let me talk about why I wanted to do this episode. So the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because as this channel has becoming more speaking to the plight between men and women, in particular Black men and Black women, and what we have going on in between us in this so-called gender war that has just been ramped up. We all know that President Trump has issued an executive order. If you didn't know that, we're going to find that out tonight. That is issued an executive order uh, um, freezing, eliminating previous executive orders and all that kind of stuff that are dealing with the um, DEI initiatives. So a lot of people have been panicking about this, saying information. So I want to read some information. So I did go last night, actually a couple nights ago, maybe Monday night, read some information and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to try to share what I learned and what we're going to be doing. Not only that, but I wanted to kind of give us, a direction that we need to be going as a community if we're going to save the community. And a lot of African American people, Black folks, us's, are kind of don't know which way we're going with this and what we should believe, and whether it's good. And as the thumbnail had a picture of Tabitha Brown on it, she will not be joining me tonight. But I wanted to highlight her because she has had some products at Target, and people have been calling for a boycott of Target because of their DEI initiatives, because they're canceling DEI initiatives and all that type of stuff. So I want to really try to break this down, talk about it, and decide whether we should um, whether we should follow suit, boycott, where we should go. And listen, I'm calling for us to come together and stop this crazy gender war. That's what I'm calling for. I'm calling us for it to stop it. It's ridiculous. And when times get tough, we're gonna figure out that we need each other. Let me say that again for the people in the back. When the times get tough, we're going to figure out that we need each other. So that's why I wanted to talk about this show tonight. All right, so let's say hello to a few people. Hello, Sunshine Speaks. Hello to you. Hello to Rhonda. Hello to Miles, my um, moderators, my mods that I drafted, voluntold. Thank you so much to you guys. Good evening to Angela Amby. Good evening, Dr. Ellen. Anyone from Philly? Go Eagles. Yes, go Eagles. All you people, all you freaking who is that? Chiefs fans that keep sending me stuff. No. Go Eagles. I believe people should stop announcing boycotts and just be about it. Pure action. Stop putting money in these companies' pockets. Tabitha only concerned about her sales. Well, there's some truth to that too. I can't say I doubt that. Times start to get serious. Absolutely, absolutely. Hello, Rhonda, to you. Hello. All right, so we're gonna play a couple of things here. So first thing I want to play. Let's see. So this is the first night I'm simultaneously broadcasting to LinkedIn. So y'all make sure you hit the like button. So I want to see if anybody gets here from LinkedIn as well. Some profit from divisiveness and chaos. Well, unfortunately, when it comes to our community, I think most people profit from our chaos, our lack of cooperation, and the fact that we can't get along and all this kind of stuff. Right? As long as we're can't divide and we're buying cars and we're buying homes and we're going on separate vacations and we sending our kids to their schools and all this stuff keeps us apart. That all of that equals a divided community and all that kind of stuff. So all right. So make sure y'all hit the like button. All right. So first thing, when we think about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and this Cornell thing behind me is actually a DEI certificate that I went to. That I did a couple of classes at Cornell University, got a DEI certificate because I used to teach when I was at the PD. I taught what implicit bias classes. I taught implicit bias classes, and then implicit bias being that when you see someone, human beings have this inherent, um, I don't want to say dislike, but we put them in categories. This person may be more violent. This person may be more smart. These people are behave a certain way and all that kind of stuff. So, as police officers, we try to get away from this implicit bias because you're more likely to give tickets to people that you don't like, or you're more likely to, if you pull over or perform a motor vehicle stop on a beautiful young woman, you may not give her a ticket, whether if it's an older, uglier quote unquote person, you might give them a ticket. So we can't operate like that. So I taught those type of classes to bring this type of mental awareness to people. So when I left the PD, I decided to go to Cornell and get this this DEI certificate. And at that time it was DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Now it's DEIA. And the A stands for accessibility and all this kind of crazy stuff. So that's what it is. So a few more greetings. Hello to High Vibe. HJ, hello. Let's see. I agree with gender wars need to stop. The gender wars need to stop. When people try to pull me into the male bashing, I let them. We need to respect each other and be more loving to our Black women and Black men. I appreciate that, Sunshine. I'm really, really aggravated by what's going on here because this is the time when it all comes. This is the time when it all comes together. I think Miles said that. This is the time. This is the time. We're fighting each other, and we get more educated than you. You guys are dusty. You guys aren't doing this, and I'm doing that. I'm going to forget about this. I'm going to date outside my race. Listen, all this stuff. Here's where the rubber meets the road here, right? Here's where we see things. So we got to stop that. We definitely need each other. Okay. No problem. I got you. I try to read through that stuff, so it's no problem. Okay, so this is what happens when people think about DEI, and this is from Sky News. I think it's from Sky News. And Sky News is a news outlet, kind of like Fox News in Australia. So this is their commentary. I'm going to speed it up a little bit about what's going on with the DEI and who the face of it is, but as we shall explore, this is not really the face of it.
Now to the devastating fires in Los Angeles, and we've been speaking about incompetence, but have a look at this. The diversity head of the fire department, Christine Larson, has come under fire for these recently resurfaced comments.
Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Oh.
I played that kind of fast. I'll rewind that. So what she said was, he got himself in the wrong place if he got himself into a fire. And the allegation is that because it's the chief or assistant chief or whatever her title is, because of the LA fires, once again, someone has come up to her and said, well, if I was in a fire, could you get my husband out of the fire? And she's saying, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's on him, which is a crazy comment for a firefighter to say.
Comments.
Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Oh, God. Let's bring in to discuss Adani Media's Lisa Goddard and News.com's deputy editor, Liz Burke. Lisa, Liz, great to see you. Look, Liz, this is serious mismanagement. And, that clip just shows the wrong priorities of us.
Sorry.
See you. Look, Liz, this is serious mismanagement. And, that clip just shows the wrong priorities of gender quotas and diversity quotas rather than actually protecting people and their homes from the risk of fire.
Yeah, I mean, there are some quotes from that clip that look pretty bad, no matter what the context. But you know, this week especially, there's another quote there where she talks about when you have someone to assist you in a fire, you want someone who looks like you. I've never heard of people's looks being raised in any sort of preferences when it comes to any kind of essential services, let alone emergency services. No one's calling the fire department saying, "I need urgent help. Can you please send someone of a particular ethnicity or of a particular gender?" But this clip was made, I think, promoting the department's DEI push. They're trying to overcome some criticism, some pretty serious discrimination lawsuits that they've faced over the past couple of decades. But really, I mean, I still want to give this woman the benefit of the doubt. In that clip, she also raises some points that I think are quite valid, that says, you know, when you're a minority in an industry or in a workplace, you come under more scrutiny, you're judged more harshly. And I think that's true. So, you know, I want to give her the benefit of the doubt and assume that someone who is in such a senior position deserves to be there and has proved that they deserve to be there. But yeah, there's kind of no real good way to spin those lines coming out now.
And it's not just that one clip, Lisa, but it's the entire strategy. I mean, I spoke about.
Now, let me just pause there for a second. Now, the woman who just spoke there with the glasses, I would push back a little bit. Because certainly when people are calling 911 in the heat of a battle, heat of emergency, whether in any type of emergency services, you're not asking for certain ethnicities or whatever. You just want a competent person to come deal with the situation. However, being a police officer, I can tell you that when I was on scene, people of color were glad to see that I was there. They came up to me, they talked to me, they wanted to tell me their story. They understood that there was a cultural competence or cultural familiarity that we shared. So there is something to that to a certain degree. Certainly, if there's a police shootout, just send if there's a shootout or shooting or anything like that, yeah, just send the most competent person. I don't care what the color they are. But a less than emergency type situation, that is the case. Play a little bit more of this.
Spoke about this at the start of the show. It's California mismanagement by Democrats who are obsessed with progressive politics. And, you know, there wasn't the water supply because they were protecting fish. It just couldn't have been worsely managed. There just was no fire prevention strategy. And we are now seeing, as a result, 10,000 or more homes lost.
Yeah, you've had two of the major areas just completely obliterated. I spent years working in America, so I know those areas well. And it's astounding when you look at those pictures, like you would have, Shari, over the break. And just to see, it was Armageddon in those parts of California. And I can tell you.
All right, that's enough of that. They're trying to blame it on the lady. But I just want to show, that this is what the rhetoric is that the news outlets are kind of pushing and all that kind of stuff. But I want to play something different now, and that is by a YouTuber, Sabby Sabs, and what she did something that I saw just last night. I thought went well with my presentation here. What the heck? And let's see, more comments here. She should be looking for a new job. Nowhere to run no more. Yeah, we're gonna get into that hopping. DEIs for white people, black people were used as mascots. Absolutely, same as healthcare. Good evening, Chaos Rain. While they were protecting fish. Oh my, yeah. I guess there was a lot of mismanagement. I guess there was a lot of mismanagement that was going on there with the water. I'm not going to begin to try to speak on that because I'm not very familiar with that. Sabby Sabs is writing something about or doing a show. And it's called How Gloria Steinem Ruined the Civil Rights Movement. And what she's going to say is going to be very, very enlightening, in my opinion. Here,
deliver progress for Black women, and this is another part.
So, again, the name of this is How Gloria Steinem Ruined the Civil Rights Movement. And then she's going to be reading from an article on Medium, Why Feminism Failed to Deliver Progress for Black Women, exploring the historical conflicts within the movement, Dr. Allison Wiltz. So I actually am reaching out to Allison Wiltz to see if she'll come onto the show. And we both went to the same school, so I hope she does come on. So anyway, what she's trying to link is I was listening to Stacey Abrams, who was running for governor of Georgia, and she did a show about Donald Trump's rolling back and things like that. And they're all linking this idea that DEI has always been there from the time of emancipation. There's been some sort of trying to equalize the races as far as job opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. That's what Stacey Abrams was claiming on her show today. I don't agree with that at all. Well, not today, but whenever she did the show, like 10 days ago or something like that. I don't agree with that at all, but that's Stacey Abrams' take. I think that civil rights in the DEI movement, as Dr. Allison Woods and Sabi Sab here are going to be talking about, that's really when really there's some serious progress made. So let's listen to what they had to say.
Their part, right? So when you look at feminism, and especially that second wave, many people assume the women's movement uplifts all women because, after all, birds of a feather flock together. However, looks can be deceiving. The women's movement historically prioritized the needs of white, affluent women, denigrating Black women. Feminism failed to address the unique intersection of sexism and racism Black women experience. The Black women in two different directions, each with a unique magnetic force. They fought alongside white feminists throughout history to improve women's lives alongside Black men to make advances in the Black community.
Look at that again. Society pulls Black women in two different directions, each with a unique magnetic force. They fought alongside white feminists throughout history to improve women's sides. So they fight along the white feminists to improve women's lives, and also trying to make sure that the Black community was going forward as well. As Sabi Sab is going to say on her show here, is that this conflict that Black women have had to deal with has really worked against them. It's not me saying this, well, although I am saying it, but Sabi Sabs is saying it, and Dr. Wilkes is saying it in this piece that she wrote on Medium. So let's listen.
Black women lack the resources to land a full-throated fight against sexism while ignoring the role of systemic racism. White women have the privilege of never needing to consider their race when fighting for their rights. Likewise, Black men never have to fear their sex holding them back socioeconomically.
I'm so tired of this Black men thing. Black men have privilege, or men we have a privilege because of a man. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I've never seen any statistics saying that. And there's a paper, John, I think his name was by Jim Sedanius, talk about the dominant male target hypothesis or something like that. Social dominance theory, that type of thing. And people have tried to debunk it. I'm reading some of that literature right now. But just saying, here's what that theory is suggesting. That no matter what organization, no matter what culture, society that you live in, if you are the subordinate males, you are the first one to be targeted, because the men in that society will target you to make you less viable to get access to the women. They may attack the females later, but the first ones who are going to be attacked physically, financially, all that type of stuff, all the things that matter physically, psychologically, financially, right? They won't let you go to their schools. They won't give you an education. They'll fire you quicker. They'll lay you off quicker. They won't pay you the same salary. Not only here in America, but in other cultures. Where Jim Sedanius, I believe he's the one who authored that, looked at this type of phenomenon. We're always the first one. So this idea that we got it less bad, but we'll continue on.
This is what people have to get. So there were also times when white feminists supported white racism, and the Black women were left standing on their own. This is why when you see that women's march, the women's march after Trump won in 2016, look around, you notice you see that many Black people out there. You don't see that many Black women. This is why we don't raise our hand to sign up and volunteer for those types of things, because of the way that feminism has done Black women in the past. We are not centered in the movement. Our issues are not centered in the movement. And Gloria Steinem is no different. This woman's face was all throughout my history books as the woman of feminism, Gloria Steinem this and Gloria Steinem that. And the issues that she was fighting for, were they really beneficial for Black women? I don't think so. It goes on to say here, we'll get into Lucy holding the football, because I think this is the part. Here it is. Lucy holding the football. White women are like Lucy from the iconic Peanuts comic strip. Fans will remember she repeatedly held the football, encouraging him to run towards her and kick it. Each time Charlie Brown ran, building up speed, only to be disappointed because Lucy yanked the ball away at the last minute. Black women are the Charlie Brown of the women's movement because white feminists often offer an olive branch, but instead give toxic oleander. Instead of deliverables, Black women receive stagnation and neglect. So there's Lucy moving the football. And here's an example here. While both Black and white women sought advancement, they did so for different reasons. Their methods of expanding rights reflect this disparity. In the aftermath of the Civil War, many white suffragists attempted to gain rights equal with their fathers, husbands, and brothers. However, Black women fought to secure rights to improve their lives in their communities. This part is also incredibly important. And then in this article, they go into the suffragettes and this part right here about the failure. The feminist movement failed to account for the different ways in which Black and white women view patriarchy. Under white-dominated male governance, Black and white women suffered many indignities. However, discriminatory practices prevented Black men from gaining power. Thus, comparing white patriarchy to Black patriarchy is like comparing apples to oranges. While it is true that Black men benefit from the male-dominated system, their benefit is significantly less than white men and works in different ways. So this is what I'm going to say about this. The example that I want to bring to you is that fight that Gloria Steinem had, we're going to fight for the right to work in the workplace alongside our white male counterparts. We're going to fight for the rights to burn our bras. We're going to fight for the rights and all those kind of things. That style of feminism was always trying to align itself with white patriarchy. It was always trying to align itself to be in the same position as white men. Black women were trying to fight for the entire community. So while Gloria Steinem is out there saying, let's go fight for the right to work with these guys and da-da-da, Black women were already working. In other words, that wasn't for us. That style of feminism was not for us. Alice Walker even criticizes this. She came up with her own term. She decided to call it womanism. And it's okay to say that. It's okay to say this was not for us. And then I got to talk about the family dynamic. Believe what you want to believe, but we got to go down this angle. Because you see, well, during that wave of feminism,
let me pause you here for a second here. So she's going to talk about this, Chaos Reign. She's going to talk about this. Sabi's going to talk about this. And let me just say this, the Sabi is no conservative, right? Some people might think what she's about to say is very conservative, but she voted for Jill Stein. She is very, very liberal, if I can use that term. If anything, she doesn't believe in right or left. Maybe that's a better way to put it. But what she's about to say is very, very conservative. And this is what a lot of people have been saying, in particular, Black men have been saying for a long time.
Telling women, we got to fight for our reproductive rights, which I agree. Yes, that's a healthcare issue. But a lot of those women that were white feminists, they still went on to either they already had husbands or they went on to have a husband. Even Gloria Steinem got married eventually, had families. This was not a good message for Black women. How did this affect Black women down the line? We can point to someone like Terry McMillan. Terry McMillan, who wrote Waiting to Exhale, How Stella Got a Groove Back. Terry McMillan, at that point in time, her books were kind of known for telling Black women, you can do it on your own. You can be successful, educated. You don't need a man. Was that the right thing to say? Was that the right angle to go down to tell Black women they don't need a man? And then some women, they look around and they're in their 40s and they say, man, I changed my mind about this. I really do wish I would settle down with someone or whatever. Maybe I do want to. And then it's kind of too late because then some guys ain't really trying to date you when you're a certain age and all that kind of jazz, etc. And I think it's one thing to say that you don't need a man. But the question that I want you to ask, what did this do to the family dynamic for Black women? While the white women were standing there, the feminist movement telling you that we need to fight alongside to work next to the white men, remember, they never walked away from the family dynamic. And I just don't know if that was great for our community. And maybe some people
She don't know. Sabby says she don't know. No, it wasn't. It definitely wasn't. Look where we are now. I think that this was the seeds of the gender war. The reason we're at where we are right now is because when they started giving out quote unquote DEI benefits, and as we'll discuss here, civil rights benefits, these other people profited, and they told, unfortunately, our women, or the message got to our women saying, you don't need them. You're strong, independent, you don't need them. And next thing you know, our communities are continued down the road of being in shambles.
some people say, may not agree, but I don't know if that was a great idea, because I have to say this. When I watched Waiting to Exhale back in the day, and at the end of the movie, I see all the women ended up alone. I'm like, okay, they dated guys, weren't good for them. They ended up alone. And then one of the women who was pregnant also ended up alone. I felt like the message that Terry McMillan was trying to send is that as a woman, you can do it all on your own. Okay, great. But why aren't we sending a message to keep the father in the home?
I saw a commercial just the other day. I think it was for Amazon. Maybe it was an ad, because I don't watch that much TV. It must have been an ad on YouTube or whatever. Amazon package comes in. Mother goes outside, gets the package, picks up this big box. Her daughter, I think it was a daughter, comes with her, looking out, and just walks back in the house. Could have been the husband could have been inside, could have been at work, but I think that the image that was portrayed there in that was that there was no man there. Otherwise, wouldn't he have gotten the big heavy box? I could be reaching. I could be stretching. I totally admit that. I'm just saying that this is the image that came to my mind. And there have been other images like that that people have pointed out through the years. So I'm just agreeing with what Sabby is saying.
And I don't want people to even think this is not even a right-wing talking point, but I'm just going to be real with you right now. There is nothing like having the dad in the home. I grew up in a 2-parent household. Some of my cousins did not. And even they will tell you the difference. So sometimes I wonder if that type of feminism was actually good for Black women. And I don't think it was. And when I look at the impact it had on the civil rights movement, I'm very concerned by that. And I'm very concerned by that because you have two movements now happening at the same time. And when that all started, now Gloria Steinem was able to make the case that white women were also marginalized. And now that white women were also marginalized, now they can be a part of affirmative action. Does everybody see how this works? So now you have added.
Hear that? That was very important. They think that they were being marginalized, so now they can get in on the affirmative action. This is going to be important later. Rewind that just a little bit.
That white women were also marginalized. And now that white women were also marginalized, now they can be a part of affirmative action. Does everybody see how this works? So now you have added other people to our struggle. And since you added other people to our struggle, what that means is that our needs, once again, are going to be pushed to the bottom of the list. I just told you that the DEI, so-called DEI hires that happened at my previous employer were white women, not Black people.
I'm a nurse. 80% of my white peers stop working once they start having babies. Our community is running back to work before our uterus is fully healed. Jesus. This is crazy though, right? Make sure y'all hit the like button. Affirmative action wasn't really for us from the beginning of its inception. Affirmative action probably was not. Yes, affirmative action wasn't. Civil rights was, but not affirmative action. I agree with you there.
Gloria Steinem's second wave of feminism was able to prove that white women were also marginalized. And then we have this term minorities. So now it's not just about Black people fighting for civil rights. Now it's, we got to help white women too. So there have been many times when I say, yeah, she was a CIA op, she worked for the CIA. I felt like Gloria Steinem was thrown in to take the attention off of the civil rights movement, to derail it from us getting what we really should have gotten, which was reparations to begin with in the first damn place. I feel like that's what that really was about.
All right, so I'm going to leave it up there. You guys can go over and check out the rest of that. It was like 35 minutes or so. Good. Sabby does good stuff there. So I appreciate what she does. And thank you to you, Rhonda. Yes, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Don't forget to hit that like button, y'all. All right, so that's going to be important, right? So I'm setting the stage, or Sabby set the stage, but I totally agree. I could not have said it better myself. And a lot of times I like to play the ladies, because when I don't want to sound like some guy just speaking off the top of my head here. But this is important. And it's important that you get this information from, in my estimation, a lady who is saying the same things that I would say and agree with. All right, so getting back to DEI. Stop with the superwoman BS. We need our men. My husband told me to take the time I need. I went back to work when our daughter turned 1. I work part-time now. We need each other. That needs to be said so loudly and clearly to everyone. Everyone needs to hear that. So it's really a shame that what has happened to our community. It really is a shame. Share screen. Present. My computer's running slow here. Don't do this to me tonight. Come on now. Come on. All right, so this comes from Black Enterprise, Wealth for Life. I'm assuming this is pretty legit here. So, I'm Googling around here. Black people only comprise 4% of DEI positions at work. It's kind of a misleading and deceptive title. But as we read through this, we'll come to understand what this is. So let me make this a little bit bigger here. Following the death of George Floyd, companies across various industries announced that they would invest in diversity and inclusion initiatives, often using the position of chief diversity officer to direct those efforts. A report from carrier site Zapier details that of these positions, only 4% of the roles were occupied by Black people in 2023. So in other words, after George Floyd had passed, and again, DEI has been around for quite some time. That terminology has been around for quite some time. After George Floyd, we all witnessed that heinous event there. My computer is running slow here. After that event, we all saw that. All these companies got together and said, "Oh, we got to do something about this." We finally see what African Americans have been telling us for years, and all this kind of crazy stuff. But then by 2023, of the directors, those chief director diversity officer positions, those chief diversity officer positions, only 4% of them were filled by Black people in 2023, according to Ryan Hayes, a senior economist at Rebello Labs. This suggests that the pledges many companies issued post George Floyd would not follow through with intent. Let's see. So he says that they were never really committed. I can say I can be fully vegan by 2025, but no one will ever call me in 2025 and ask if I'm fully vegan. This is the Lucy football analogy that Sabby Sabs was giving us, right? They pulled the rug out, well, we're going to do this, but then don't do it. And that's what's really going on here. In 2020, a lot of companies made big commitments, big statements around DEI and the roles and goals. But as we observing at the turning of the tide, I think it's very timely that we take a look at companies to see if we have kept up with those statements they've made. The lack of Black people in diversity and inclusion roles makes experts in that field suspect, like AS. Those announcements and positions were created for public relations boosts and little else. So again, we weren't getting these positions. So First argument is, as I'm saying, researchers said, and we'll get into more research in a minute here, that the greatest beneficiaries of the civil rights movement were white women. And here again, when they told us we were going to give us these beneficiaries and make some serious changes, they don't make any changes. They don't make any changes. Chris Metzler, a senior vice president of corporate DEI and environmental, social, and governance strategies at National Urban Leagues, tells NBC News most of your diversity professionals at these companies report to human resources, which are headed by white women and in some cases white men. So it doesn't surprise me that Black diversity officers are being moved out. It's increasingly becoming a dead-end job. Corporations are saying one thing and demonstrating something else, as going back to checking box versus hiring and keeping qualified workers who can impact change in the company. So this article was written before Trump's thing, 2026. They had already started to replace you. They already started to slow down in this. They weren't keeping the promises and all that kind of stuff, right? So, but also this, I don't like the title here. Black people only comprise 4% of DI positions. That's chief diversity officer positions. So I don't appreciate the fact that they did that. All right. So what else I got for you guys here? That football is an illusion. Football is an illusion. We are not getting the jobs. The diversity programs helped out Asian, Indian, etc. I'm going to show that it really didn't. Actually, Asians are very upset too. Remember when that Supreme Court case came down about them getting universities? They're not very happy, and they're not getting the positions, and they're not getting the schools like they once thought. And again, this is why I played the first video, right? They're showing you this. It's a bait and switch, the football thing. Here's the people, right? This firefighter, Black people are getting all this diversity stuff. Indian people are getting it. All these other minorities. Who's getting these positions? It's white women, for the most part. We've fallen for this okie doke. And even the Asian, I'm not going to speak to them and to their, issues and all that, but there's a lot of complaints from what I've read. There's a lot of complaints coming in from them. So the problem is that we were blamed for the inception of all that foolishness, though we did not benefit. Absolutely. Perry and Keisha, Unshakable Love and Lasting Marriages. Yeah, sound like a couple I need to have on this podcast here. The problem is that we will be blamed for the inception of that foolishness, though we did not benefit from it. Absolutely. So did the sister who had Target DEI get fired? I don't know. I don't know what's going on, Target. I haven't followed that. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Let's see here. Present. Share screen. All right, so this is from Forbes. I got to close some of these tabs. My computer's running slow here. DEI under fire. Trump eliminates military diversity programs. Here's a list of major organizations dropping DEI. So we all know about this Trump on all this kind of stuff. Signed the measure here. January 28th, Washington reported Smithsonian Institution told employees its diversity office is closing a first step to address Trump's new federal policy that declared DEI programs dangerous and demeaning. January 27th, Trump signed an executive order eliminating DEI offices and policies within the military, Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, which he considered race-based and sex-based, and a separate executive order effectively reinstated his 2017 ban on transgender troops, banning identification-based pronoun usage, and prohibiting troops assigned male at birth from using women's bathing or sleeping facilities. I looked up some stuff. I heard something about the Department of Labor in statistics, and when I went to their DEI page, it said oops. So they're purging everything about DEI. So you can't even, some stuff that I've heard people saying on the internet. I tried to verify by going over to the Department of Labor. I couldn't verify it because I couldn't get to it. So if anybody can get those links or screenshots or anything, I'd love to read what the Department of Labor and their statistics on DEI and all that kind of stuff. Target, which had already curbed its LGBT pride merchandise in response to conservative backlash, announced it would pull back on racial hiring, end its racial equity, inclusion, and change program, and cease participation in external diversity surveys, with Chief Community Impact and Equity Officer Kiera Fernandez telling employees in a memo that the decisions were made based on many years of data in an effort to stay in step with the evolving external landscape. Wow, how's that for an answer? Many years of data in the changing landscape. Yeah, okay. Okay, Kiera Fernandez. That was January 24th, January 23rd, Costco's, January 22nd, conservative groups, National League and Policy Center, National Center for Policy and Public Policy Research, proposals urging Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan Chase to review and possibly end the diversity, equity, inclusion efforts. Heritage Foundation, Bank of America, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, all this kind of stuff, right? Executive order. He feels universities, nonprofits, anybody who's doing business with the government, the FBI closed their office, their DEI office. Amazon rolled back outdated programs, internal memos citing programs were established to address specific disparity. Meta, McDonald's, who else? Walmart. And all this is before they knew it was coming, so they got ahead of it, right? Once he was, about to win, Boeing, Molson Coors, you guys going to boycott Coors? Lowe's, Ford, Jack Daniels. I know you ain't manufacturing. You ain't doing nothing about Jack Daniels. Harvey Davidson, John Deere. Right. So those are just some of the businesses that's going on with that. Let's see. Let's see. So that's them. Yeah, absolutely welcome. I'm gonna have to reach out to these brothers and sisters. I don't know. Okay, well, thanks for the info because I thought they were getting the benefit. No, they were not. they are not. Honestly, and I'm going to go through some numbers in a second here, so I'll show you. Honestly, I only shop to Target for those super soft pajamas. I can get them elsewhere. Target is overpriced to me. Okay, all right. It didn't. It didn't, and that's why a lot of black men are like, we didn't get, the benefits of affirmative action, civil rights. We didn't get the benefits of DEI, and the argument could be made that a lot of this stuff was aimed at us, particularly, I would say, civil rights movement, right? Because I'm going off the Moynihan report and the Kerner Commission. Both of those reports really kind of said, there's a lot that needs to be done, in particular for black men. And if you want to help the black community overall, you got to help black men. You got to give them jobs, you got to give them education, and you got to stop discriminating against them. And what do? They give it to women. Okay. Yeah, we ain't, but nobody's boycotting football. Come on now, ain't nobody doing that. All right, so we're gonna read through. I was gonna read through the whole thing, but I don't know. I want to. So this is the actual executive order. I'm not boycotting them. Listen, I mean, we weren't benefiting anyway. You guys do what you want. I'm not going to call for you guys to do whatever. I mean, if everybody wants to do it, I don't want to hurt Tabitha, though. I mean, but here's the thing that I would say. We have to do what's best for within, not only for our own personal pockets, but we got to stand collectively. It's not only about boycotting them, but part of it is setting up our own places of business. This is what Malcolm X talked about. Setting up our own places of business and going on from there, man. That's what a lot of it is talking about, man. So here's the actual executive order ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunity. This is from the White House. This is the actual executive order. Today, After 60 years of the passage of the civil rights movement in 64, critical and influential institutions in American society, including the federal government, major corporations, financial institutions, medical industry, largely commercial airlines, law enforcement agencies, institutions of higher education have adopted it and actively dangerous, demeaning, and immoral race-based preferences under the guise of so-called diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility that violate the civil rights laws of this nation. So I've heard people saying that they're rolling back civil rights and everything that Lyndon Johnson did in the 1960s is untrue. That's not the case. Civil rights is the law, and he's not repealing that. You can see that right there. He's not repealing that. What he's repealing are the different things that we'll get into in a second. Illegal DEI and DEI policies not only violate the text and spirit of the longstanding federal civil rights laws, they also undermine our national unity as they deny, discredit, and undermine the traditional American values of hard work, excellence, and individual achievement in favor of unlawful course of a pernicious identity-based spoils system. Hardworking Americans who deserve a shot at the American dream should not be stigmatized, demeaned, or shut out of opportunities because of their race or sex. I recognize, and I'm not ignorant to that. This is, what they're saying. What's it going to look like? Just like in the work that Sabby Sabbath was reading by Dr. Wiltz, we're in a difficult situation because we want all these different rights, but can we go along with all these different rights? Right? If we get rid of all DEI, what does that mean for a black man or a black woman who puts their name on an application? I was at a application for a job or to get a promotion on a job. I was at a speech by Tim Wise. Tim Wise is a very well-known anti-racist activist. And one of the things that he said that struck me during his speech was that one of the primary ways that people get hired for jobs is because they know somebody within the company. And that is a leg up and a foot in the door that really is a difficult thing to overcome, because you have equal applications or equal CVs or equal resumes, but if that person A knows somebody in the company, person B may not. And the other thing that isn't talked about, or I haven't really read a lot about, as we all know this from a psychological basis, we tend to hire people or tend to befriend people who are more similar to us than other people. And that's really kind of the basis of tribalism, racism, and all these other kind of isms. And that's what how do we deal with that? How do we get rid of these things we're going to read through in this White House policy here, or his executive order here, but still kind of combat, when I know somebody within the company, or somebody within the university, that is so Tim Wise said this during his talk, and I followed it up during the question and answer period, and I asked that question. He didn't have an answer. There is no answer for that, because people are going to hire their cousin, they're going to hire their friend, they're going to hire somebody who, hey, I'm the boss, I'm the hiring person, and I'm going to hire somebody who is, a friend of a friend or cousin of a cousin or whatever. And if you're not in that club, it's going to be difficult for you to get in there, right? Okay, so here are some of the things that are going to be terminating illegal discrimination in federal government. The following executive actions are hereby revoked. Executive Order 12898, federal action to address environmental justice. I read that over a little bit. I'm not in favor of them repealing that if that's about environmental conditions that adversely affect minorities, people of color, aka black people. If there's pollution and all this other kind of stuff, I'm not in favor of that. But that's what I read, so I could be wrong about that. I'm not an expert about that. Executive order, and remember, these are what he's revoking in the age of DEI. So again, it's not the Civil Rights Act of 64. It's this first one is from 1994, right? Executive Order 13 in 583, 2011. Establishing coordinated government-wide initiative to promote diversity and inclusion in the federal workforce. This 13672, 2014, further amendments to executive orders, equal opportunity in the federal government, executive Order 11246, equal employment opportunity, and presidential memorandum October 5th, promoting diversity and inclusion in national security workforce. So what this, I'm very curious as to how the extent of how this goes. When you fill out an application and at the bottom of the application, it goes, this company hires in compliance with the Equal Opportunity Commission and all this kind of stuff. That's going to be very, very curious going forward. The federal contracting process, Equal Opportunity Commission, all this promoting diversity, holding federal contractors responsible for taking affirmative action. So if you're a federal contractor, you try to promote diversity within your or any type of language about that, your contract will be canceled. Faith-based organizations talking about it. Head of each agency. Let's see. A term requiring the contractual counterplay or grant recipient to agree that its compliance in all aspects and with all applicable federal anti-discrimination laws is material. I think this is all just kind of legalese here. Yeah, I think this is all legalese. Yeah, this is all just legalese. So those are the things he's going to do. So Section 5, other actions. Within 120 days of this order, the Attorney General and the Secretary of Education shall jointly issue guidance to all state and local educational agencies that receive federal funds, as well as institutions of higher education that receive federal funds, and all that. So they're still trying to work all this out. So he's revoking some orders, and they got 120 days to figure all this out. 120 days to figure all this out. So yeah. So there's still more that's going to be coming about this. So don't panic yet. Some things are going to be. I think they defunded some things, but there was a court case today, and the judge blocked it. So there's going to be some laws and fighting about that. Appreciate that, Rhonda. Can we get more thumbs? The boycott would be ineffective due to the lack of collaboration. Well, that's an issue. That's always been an issue. Even during the Montgomery boycott, right? There was, it's something like 15% participation, or 15, 20%. So if you continue to hire diverse applicants, then what? It's not about hiring them. It's about it being in the language. So it doesn't mean because you are a white boss and you hire a black person or an Asian person or a woman or whatever, there's nothing going to happen to you. But then it's about, he just wants the language eliminated from your website, a language eliminated from your policies and procedures. That is what is being eliminated. Companies should still be looking for that, but it's about not so much filling quotas and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. Think about it, we can win. Simply telling people to change spending habits is a tough one. Bingo. Setting up our own places for all businesses and creating community for us. We are the biggest money power spenders. If our dollars deplete from our stores, eventually he would have to shut down or revamp. We need to create the distribution that's desperately needed when businesses try to scale up. We've seen black businesses left with no option but to go to retailer or brands for expansion. Yeah. So I definitely agree with that we got to have, it's a soup to nuts. It's a soup to nuts operation that we got to establish. Not only selling the wares, but we got to create the wares. This is what Malcolm X talked about. We got to have the factories. Then we got to have the buses, the trains, to get this stuff to different places, to export it to all over the country. Right. That's we're lacking that type of logistics and infrastructure. That's the problem. That is the problem. So, all right. So that's that. All right. So let's continue on with this. Let's see. Let's close that. I got to close a lot of these tabs here. Continue to hit the like button. I would appreciate it. Yeah, I know, man. I know. I'll reload this page. All right. Yeah. That's always that I think is the big fear that we have, is that they would do what they did again, or previously, I should say, do what they did previously and burn it down. That I think is the problem. All right, let me try to share screen. All right, let's take a look at this here. So this is who benefits from diversity and inclusion efforts. Who benefits from this? Who benefits from this? Now, this is written by Dr. Michelle Penelope King. Who benefits from diversity? Oh, geez, my page is not loading here. So I thought this young sister here was Dr. King, yeah, Dr. Michelle King, but it's not. Lena Irving, CEO of Coquel, and all that. Every year, companies in the U.S. spend all this different type of money. Well, I got to reload this page here. Apologies about this. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. So in a report entitled Being Black in Corporate America, released by global nonprofit think tank and adversity adversary Coquel, found that Black professionals are more likely to encounter prejudice and microaggressions than any other ethnic group. They're also less likely than their white counterparts to have access to senior leaders and managerial support. So this is about who benefits. Additionally, Black women are less likely to have access to the same support and advocacy as white women. Black women, who are often numerically underrepresented in professional occupations, regularly grapple with how to counteract negative racial stereotypes that undermine the professional images in the office. In response, they often have to strategically engage in code switching by adjusting their speech, appearance, and behaviors that try to fit in. So this is a problem. While many white women have made gains in American workplaces, the gains for racial and ethnic minority women haven't been as significant. According to another McKinsey study, white women hold nearly 19% of all C-suite positions, while racial and ethnic minority only hold about 4%. Overall, white women have benefited disproportionately from corporate DEI efforts. That is who is benefiting. It's very easy for companies to think we've delivered on women, on gender, we have parity, but without looking at data, intersectionality, looking at groups across signs of differences, we may not see the groups for whom we are creating the conditions to thrive. For Black colleagues, the barriers they face to advancement seem to be largely invisible to their white colleagues, says Lana Irvin, CEO of Coquel. There's a tendency when implementing D&I initiatives to consider women's experiences with a unified view. The problem is that it tends to reflect the experiences of white women because they make up the dominant group of women leaders in corporate America. So this, this article goes on to continues to emphasize that it was white women who have benefited. Now, this is Dr. Michelle King. So just I try to know who people are. So I read through her bio and all that kind of stuff, right? And why she wrote this article. Remember what Sabby Sabs said? Sabby Sabs, second video that we played, said it really didn't benefit us very much. So here's this doctor who oh, that's not her. No, it's not her. So this is her, Michelle King, a global recognized expert on inequality and organizational culture. So I read through her stuff, right? because I want to know, right? I want to know who people are and what their qualifications are to talk about this stuff. Globally renowned expert on inequality and organizational culture, dedicated to transforming workplaces, inclusive environments, chief people officer at ODI, chief people officer at ODI, a prestigious global affairs think tank. Michelle leads initiatives aimed at combating injustice and inequality, continuing a legacy that spans over 6 decades. Before joining ODI, Michelle founded the cultural practice, global consulting agency in diversity, equity, and inclusion and development organization. Her expertise attracted high-profile clients as JP Morgan, Netflix, Dior, FIFA, Amazon. She spearheaded strategy to reshape workplace cultures. Through this, she created an expansive library of DEI training content, partnering with Udemy to democratize and all this kind of stuff, right? She also serves as senior advisor to the UN's Foundation Girl Up campaign, where she oversees next-gen leadership and all that kind of stuff, right? She was the director of inclusion at Netflix and head of UN's Women Global Initiative, Coalition for Change, and all this kind of stuff. Listen, I mean, I don't know. I just she's made a career, and this is what I don't like. What I don't like is people who make careers out of and if you can see this picture right here, let me see here if I can go back to this picture. Notice what's on her finger right there, if you can see it, on her left hand, not where she's not holding a microphone. It's a wedding ring. It's a wedding ring. Listen, that's what I'm saying. I just want to say that, there's a duping that's been going on. There's a duping. This woman has made a career, gone to schools, got a PhD in management, smart lady. She's done what she had to do. But, no experience and just writing books and articles. And this is what I don't like, what I started to say. It's what I don't like when people make this type of stuff around not having any real world experience. She wrote that article, the previous article that I played, talking about the experiences of Black women and all these different people, and from her lens. She, to me, is one and benefits from this type of stuff. Would she have a job if it weren't for the need for have DEI initiatives? I could be making way, way, way too much out of this. All right. At age 22. Right. Right. Yeah. Don't know anything. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Crazy. What does she do to help diversify the workplace? Who knows? She probably put together some PowerPoints, probably ran some different PowerPoints, some lectures, some different games, write down, what you think about this people, what do you think about that people, what comes to mind when you do this, right? I'm sure you all have some type of training experiences with writing down games and all that kind of stuff, right? And now it's all going from remember the list of companies that we read through, a lot of it's going away. Just another racket. That really kind of bothers me. Really kind of bothers me. In the PD, we used to, I was talking to somebody the other day, not long ago, and we're talking about doing training for police officers, and she did not work. She was never a police officer. And I told her, listen, I don't care what you say, those cops are tuning you out when you talk. And she's like, yeah, no, I realize that now. I'm not going to train cops anymore. Yeah, because they don't listen to people who weren't cops. Unless you wore the uniform, you don't have anything to tell them. And I would say the same thing about this DEI and affirmative action stuff. Listen, you can't tell us about what it's like to be excluded, right? All this stuff that Trump is trying to do, it might sound good, it might sound great, it might sound that they're trying to follow the spirit of the law, but what's it really going to be like when the rubber hits the road and we really have to make some decisions about who we're going to hire, and they want to hire their cousin, and or they're passing us over for a promotion because of the other person was more qualified. I'm not pretending to have the answer. What I am saying is that all this animosity that we got going on with each other, we got to figure that out, because the whole world, as I've talked about on other shows, the whole world, listen, they're coming for us, man. You know, all those people that, you know, and they're being deported now, but all these different migrants who come here, immigrants trying to get here, come to work and moving up in corporations, particularly if they are of another ethnicity, you think they're going to hire you? You think they're going to be looking out for your best interest? They're not. They're not. And I'm not saying that gleefully and celebratory and all that kind of stuff. I'm just saying that we need to get ourselves together. That's my whole thing here. We got to get ourselves together. Stop being angry and mad and all this other kind of crazy stuff. So, okay, I got two more things I want to show you guys. Make sure y'all hit the like button. Okay, this is from USA Today. White women benefit most from affirmative action. Hold on. I apologize. My computer's running slow. I did restart it too, so I don't know why it's doing this. White women benefit most from affirmative action, so why do they oppose it? People often associate affirmative action with efforts to end discrimination for people of color, but scholars say the greatest beneficiaries of affirmative action policies are white women from college campuses to American workplace. So we can put that to rest because they are the biggest beneficiaries of it. What is affirmative action? I'm not going to read through all that. I think you guys should know all that. How have white women benefited from affirmative action? Discussions about affirmative action tend to focus on race, but statistics show that it has also been an equalizer for white women in education and in the workplace. A Labor Department report in 1995 found that since the 1960s, affirmative action has helped 5 million members of the minority community and 6 million women move up. This is not a very good. It's not very telling. Members of minority groups. Is that all minority groups? Is this white women? Is this 6 million women white women or and all that? So it's not telling us all that. When we talk about institutions like higher education, we see that women in general are on par with men, but we have severe underrepresentation of Black, Indigenous, and Latinx folks in colleges and universities, and even greater disparities for women of color. Texas A&M sociologist and lawyer Wendy Leo Moore told USA Today, you can make the same analysis when we look at employment. Those are the kind of things that indicate that on a structural level that white women have benefited. What does the affirmative action data show? In the past 6 decades, women have leapfrogged men in earning about 4-year degrees, while Black and Latino students are still underrepresented in college admissions and graduation rates, especially in 4-year colleges. A similar trend has been seen in the workplace, according to USA Today, for the 100 companies. From 2020 to 2022, white women expanded their share of senior leadership at jobs twice the rate of women of color. 2020, that was George Floyd. So not only from affirmative action from the 1960s, to the 70s, to the 80s, but even in 2020, after George Floyd, which again should have been about African-American people, Black folks, white women expanded their share of senior leaderships. Despite marginal gains from men of color, white men still hold about 2/3 of the top jobs, even though they account for just 1/3 of U.S. workers. Why do most white women oppose affirmative action? If white women benefit from affirmative action, why do they oppose it? Half of Americans do not approve of colleges and universities considering race in admissions. According to a recent Pew Research study, a majority of white adults disapprove of it. About 70% of non-Hispanic white women somewhat or strongly oppose affirmative action, according to a 2014 congressional study. White women have also challenged affirmative action policies. In 2016, the Supreme Court, Abigail Fisher, she tried to sue University of Texas because she was a white woman and didn't get in. She lost that case, but in 2023 that was overturned, or affirmative action. So this is 2014. So that's that. So this really doesn't answer the question, but I think that the answer to the question is, why do they oppose it? I think that the answer to the question is that they oppose it because of the face that has been given African-American people and in this whole woke culture. The first video that I played about the high-ranking fire official, that is why most people are opposing to it, because they think that we're getting that we're the beneficiaries of it, and that the woke culture and the people who are changing their genders and all that kind of stuff, they think that they're getting it, and they're not. So that's that article. This page keeps freezing. So, all right. And the last one is the Pew Research. And I'll answer some questions if anybody has some. This one is just talking about what people think about it. This is from Pew Research Center. Diversity, equity, inclusion in the workplace. The majority of U.S. workers say focusing on DEI work is a good thing, but relatively small shares place great importance on the diversity in their own workplace. That's an important statement. It's a good thing we talk about this, but I don't want it where I work at. Crazy. Absolutely crazy, right? A majority of workers say focusing on DEI is a good thing, right? A good thing, 56%. A bad thing, 16%. Neither good nor bad, 28%. You guys can read through this. Here's some key findings of the survey. Relatively small shares of workers place a lot of importance on diversity in the workplace. About 3 in 10 say it's extremely important or very important to them to work somewhere with a mix of employees on different races of ethnicities. Respectfully to the white women out there, do you think that they care anything about that? They don't care anything about that. They don't care anything about that. Roughly a quarter say that the same thing about having a workplace with about equal mix of men and women, 26%, and 18 say that this mix of employees of different sexual orientations. Those aren't overwhelming numbers, just 26 and 18 and all that kind of stuff. More than half of the workers, 54%, say their company or DEI organizations pays about the right amount of attention. Don't need to read that. Women are more likely to value DEI at work. That's important. I've talked about this when I'm talking about college, university professors and stuff. About 6 in 10 women, 61% say focusing on DEI or increasing DEI at work is a good thing, compared with half of men. A larger share of women say that men say it's extremely or very important to them to work in a place that is diverse when it comes to gender, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation. There are wide partisan differences in views in DEI. Most Democratic and Democratic-leaning workers, 78%, say focusing on DEI work is a good thing, compared with 30% of Republicans. So this is definitely a political issue. Democrats are far more likely than Republicans to value diversity at work. What I didn't play, and I don't maybe I did play it, I don't recall, but what Sabby Sab said is that when the ladies go home to their husbands, because he did say that they were married, they want their sons to grow up and be the breadwinners too. If you watch the full entirety of the clip that I played, the first clip or the second clip that I played with Sabby Sabs and her critique of Gloria Steinem, if you watch the entire thing, she says that those ladies go home to their husbands and they're raising their sons to become the predominant breadwinners. And all this gender war about men falling behind and not going to college and not getting jobs and sleeping in their mom's basement and playing video games and watching the funny movies all day. One of the biggest and loudest voices that are coming up against that are the white mothers who don't know what's going on. But when black men couldn't get jobs and this, that, and the other, nobody cared. We were just lazy. But now they're just hitting home. The chickens have come home to roost for a variety of reasons. Now it's an issue. Half of workers say it's extremely or very important to them to work somewhere that's accessible for people with physical disabilities. Many say being a man or being a white man is an advantage to where they work at. Okay. Then you can go down here, views on DEI in the workplace along varying demographic and partisan lines. It's a good thing, 56%, 50% say, men say it's good. Women say 61%. Jeez, I didn't mean to do that. White people say it's 78%. Excuse me, 47%. And you can see, listen, all these different things, because we are the first ones fired and last ones hired and all the passed over for promotions and all this microaggressions and all that, because we're targeted, we're always going to have the largest numbers, and it's always going to be Hispanics behind us. But even Asians are like, oh, this is an issue. They're feeling it too. It's a good thing. This it's 72%. This is a good thing. So you guys can read through all that. I'm not going to continue to bore you about that, but this is just surveys about what people think about it. You can't find any type of language or anything like that about how many people are actually dealing with or going through or enjoying being hired by DEI. All you can find out is the corporate leaders and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, let's see. Let me get to some of these things here. Statistics read that DEI training has been ineffective in the workplace. Those research that I've read are all over the place. Some say that it's good, some say that it's bad. Whether the effectiveness of it. Let's see. She's not smart, she's privileged. This is what I'm saying. That was that lady. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Was she a Nepo hire in her family connections? I don't know anything about how she got these different positions. I always wondered about that though, right? How do you get this? How do you get these different positions? I mean, unless maybe when she's going through her intern PhD or something like that, she was able to make these connections, get her hired at Netflix and all this stuff, different type of stuff. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. And her PhD is in management, so she wasn't really a manager. She got a degree and then started working at all these different places, doing diversity, equity, inclusion type of work. Never managed anybody a day in your life. Of course, that's just what it in her bio. Maybe she got more stuff in there. I don't know. If there's ever a chance for us to organize, this is it. Listen, I absolutely agree with you, CZ. So now, I believe a majority of my directors at my job have been white women, only one white man, 0 black directors. It's unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate. White women oppose affirmative action because they don't need it. They are born from the white male patriarchy, marry it, and give birth to it. Well, again, as others have pointed out, that they don't even, they benefited from affirmative action, right? They came in and what's that comedian? The red-haired dude. Oh, he's bald now. I forget his name. He said they kicked the Gucci boots over the affirmative action and just took all the benefits. They're the gatekeepers. So that's my presentation for tonight. I just wanted to talk about that, and it's up to you. I'm not going to tell you whether to boycott or not. I just think it's very interesting concerning the boycotting issues and all that kind of stuff. I think it's we just weren't the beneficiaries of it. And I listened to a lot of men. Yeah, Bill Burr, absolutely. Kicked their Gucci booted feet over the wall of oppression and took all the goodies. Bill Burr. It's crazy. As far as what is boycotting going to do? I mean, what really is it going to do? I mean, so we hurt Tabitha Brown, we might hurt their company, but I don't know. But the point I want to make is that we weren't benefiting from in the first place. 4% of all these DEI hires after 2020, after they say we're going to make some changes, and all these different companies, we're going to make all these changes, and you still only have 4% of black leadership in these chief executive positions. And the other article I read talked about since 2020, they've only increased. We weren't getting any of these goodies in the first place. So Sharpton waltzing into Costco was a complete embarrassment. I didn't even see that. I don't take Al Sharpton seriously. I don't take Al Sharpton seriously. So, boycotting with a strategy is no waste of time. And I think if you're going to boycott, okay, we're not going to spend our money at Target. Where are we going to spend our money? Who should we support? Who is, so I definitely agree with you. Got to have a strategy about that. Yeah, they're playing in our faces. We're not going to do any of this. We're not going to give you any of these goodies. You're not getting any of these goodies. They're never, listen, I think it's time that we really understood they're never going to do it. All these things that we want, they're never going to do. We have to do it ourselves. And the point was brought up before about them burning our stuff down and all that kind of stuff. It's an excellent point. It's an excellent point. We got to have the means to protect it, the means to distribute it, the means to collect it, the means to produce it. That means owning mines and fields where we grow stuff and all. It's a whole industry and logistics that we got to build. I was listening to I told you I was listening to Stacey Abrams. No, I'm sorry. To this lawyer. I forget her name, Lori something. She has a syndicated talk show. I just found her the other day. She's pretty good. And she was talking about, the civil rights movement, Malcolm X, supporting our own. And what has been done to us as far as that is just been crazy. And I wrote this in her comment section. I'll tell you guys this too. When I was very heavily involved in church, like I was teaching Sunday school. I was teaching Sunday school every Sunday, right? And we're teaching, if you teach Sunday school, right? And all these different, I'm not making any kind of pronouncements about religion or your faith or anything. I'm just speaking truth. When you read through the Bible and all this type of stuff, the vast majority is quote unquote Jewish history. Now people want to say it's, there's some African ties, Ethiopian ties and all that. I'm not going to make any of those, judgments. But when we're talking about that, a lot of it it's just not us and not our history. So I talked to the leadership of my church, my pastor at the time and all that. Why don't we, instead of teaching this stuff, why don't we also incorporate Black history, our time here in America? Let's talk about, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and all the other people that nobody ever knows about. Shot down. And I said that because we don't know our history, and if you don't know our history, you're doomed to repeat things. You're not proud of yourself and all this different type of stuff. You don't recognize what you have done and what you can do. So that was just it was disappointing. It was disappointing that was the case. So all this type of stuff about boycotts and all this stuff, and we keep going through the same thing. This stuff is a cycle, and we're not getting off this hamster wheel. We're not breaking this cycle. We keep doing the same thing. We keep going through the same thing. We keep going through it, and it's really unfortunate, and it's terrible that we continue to go through this. After civil rights, we make some strides, and the next thing you know, there's a backlash. That we get, a Black president. The next thing you know, we get Donald Trump, and then we make some strides, and then next thing you know, here we are again. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. The person is still required to do the job successfully. Maybe that's the problem. Well, that's the argument that they're going to make, that has been made by the Donald Trump and his cronies there, is that these people are incompetent. AKA the firefighter that I played at the beginning. Remember, there's a big talk about when Trump was the assassination attempt against him. Those couple of ladies who were running around like the chickens with their head cut off, it's calling them DEI hires. So, yeah. Right. One of our Black Wall Street communities was once Central Park in New York City before it burned it down. Yeah. Listen, it's an issue. It's an issue and it's a problem. It's an issue and it is a problem. So, and it's something we got to figure out together collectively. It's something we got to figure out together and collectively. Do we need to leave? Do we need the government? I'm torn about that. Because the government, while other people have had this love-hate relationship with the government, Black folks have needed the government. We needed the government to stop the lynchings, which they didn't. We needed the government to integrate the school systems. We needed the government to stop us from, to enforce the civil rights. Even post Civil War, during the Reconstruction era, there were federal troops occupying the South. And once they pulled those Southern troops, 1877? That's when Jim Crow sparked off. Lynchings and taking over towns and kicking people out of Congress and running them out of town and burning cities down and all that kind of stuff. That's when it all started. So we have this love-hate relationship with the government. So now it seems to be, and I don't know what the end of this is going to be. A lot of this stuff is going to be, they're going to have to revamp and really kind of redefine what the Civil Rights Act of 64 really means, what that's going to look like. What does that mean? How they're going to interpret that? That's going to be something. Again, they're not taking it away, but they're just going to be re-exploring and reinterpreting what that means and where they're going to go from there. But do we need, I think to a certain extent, yeah. I mean, we're still only 13% of the population, and a lot of people out there still don't like us. So, but we have this love-hate relationship with them, But I think that some of the things that we should do, before I answer the question about leaving, I think some of the things we should do is we really should build our own schools. I mean, support HBCUs as much as possible, build schools in your own community, set up your own Sunday school programs and or just education type of stuff, because there is a link. If you didn't know this, I'll tell you this now. There is a link between positive self-thought and talk and success in school. And so, in other words, if you know your history and you have a better self-image of being a Black person, you'll do better and go farther in school because you know where you came from. So that's why it's important that we know Black history and all this kind of stuff. And again, as I was listening to the sister today, we don't know if a lot of this stuff like Juneteenth is going to last. They might take away Black History Month. I wouldn't even be surprised if that's not a thing anymore. I wouldn't even be surprised. But what are we going to do? That's the question. The question is, what are you going to do? What are we going to do if they take away Black History Month? If they take away Juneteenth, what are we going to do? Are we going to continue to celebrate it? Are we going to continue to what we should do is, this question about needing the government. What we should do is make sure that we are building up our own communities, educating our own children, embracing our history, our heritage, and our culture. That's what we should be doing. To the question about whether we should leave or not, I mean, I guess that's up to you. I mean, this is still the best place on the planet to make a good living, to make some good money. But if you have the skills and the ability to go someplace else, as I talked about in the video that I released earlier today, if you have the skills and the ability to go somewhere else, I wouldn't blame you. But if your economics are tied here, and your family is here, we just got to make the best of the time that we have here. So that would be my answer. If the church really want to heal people, they would marry biblical teachings with psychology. Our problem, aside from systemic obstacles, is psychological. We need to actualize our potential. Yeah, I agree with that. There's a lot of healing trauma that needs to be done. One of my very good friends and I, we talk about this all the time. He's actually a pastor of a church, and we talk about this all the time. There's so much stuff that we have done, and that's why I think that the problems have been lasting so long within the Black community, because we haven't gotten the psychological help from a holistic and mass movement type of thing. Dr. Amos Wilson talked about this. We're never going to heal Black people by one person going to therapy at a time. You're never going to make any type of strides doing that. What you have to do, and what we have to do, is massively in a mass movement of psychological healing, who we are as a people, where we come from, why we do the things that we do, why we like ratchet behavior, why some of our women continue to want to twerk and go after pookies and ray-rays, why don't some of the men want to settle down and continue to run the streets into the 40s and 50s? Why is all this happening, right? We got to answer this question, and we understand that the things that things happen to us. There's nothing wrong with us as far as DNA or biological perspective, but what happened to us is a psychological problem that is being passed down through generations that we have to fix, and we're never going to do that individually. That Reconstruction era should be studied by every Black person. Absolutely, we were making great strides. Members of Congress, building community, building companies. A lot of Black-owned businesses were hiring and employing white people. That's what they didn't like, right? Here's these former slaves out here owning companies. I got to go work for this man. They didn't like all that. That's where it came from, right? Once some troops got moved out the South, it was game on. Crazy. Schools, hospitals, banks. Umar Johnson would also throw in there farms and grocery stores, right? I agree with that. I think Umar's right a lot. I think he's right a lot. Our own schools, hospitals, and banks. I got you. The government is divisive. We have the next 4 years to pivot. The church needs to stop teaching from a struggle mentality. Unfortunately, the church is still too concerned about their own issues. They're still too concerned about their own issues. Still too concerned about pastors are just worried about their own little kingdoms, what they can do, what they can get, what type of Rolls Royce they can get, what jet they can buy, who's flying them where their next speaking engagement is going to be. That's what they're concerned about. That is what they're concerned about. In the Reconstruction, we completely defied their stereotypes and outperformed them. We continue to do it, not just Reconstruction, right? Remember, World War One, not World War One. Hitler and his super race, and then Jesse Owens gets to the Olympics and blows everybody out the water, right? The Negro Leagues, right? We're beating these dudes left and right, right? I mean, just give us a chance. And that, this whole merit thing that the government or President Trump is trying to do is great. I personally think it's great. Let's do everything on merit, but we shouldn't be but the problem is everybody don't think that way. And if we start outperforming people, and if our CVs, our resumes, and our productivity and all that starts to outshine other people, what's going to be the backlash? And again, the biggest question that I asked to Tim Wise, and that there is no answer for, is that people employing nepotism, cronyism, and hiring their cousins and their sons and their nephews and a friend of a friend. That is the biggest issue that we have to defeat. That is the toughest uphill battle. We can start from scratch, but as long as you're going to hire somebody who looks like you, from your community, from your neighborhood, who's got your same last name, and where I live is a lot of Italian population, and they used to always make jokes about if your name lasted in a vowel, that's how you know you were going to get the job, right? That's the biggest obstacle to overcome. And who is the left? And this is where it always comes down to our race, right? We look the least like the rest of the population. Our skin is darker than the rest of the population on the planet. And, so therefore we're continuing to be stigmatized. We're just an easy target. So again, you got these people who are coming here. The people who get here from other countries, from whether it's from the Middle Eastern countries or from South America, Latin America, they're going to get here and they're going to hire people who came from the same villages that they did. So we got to figure out how to get into ourselves into power. We got to figure out how to get ourselves into power, figure out how we're going to make the strides necessary to create these schools, hospitals, banks, farms, and grocery stores, and as well as the means and transportation in the trucks to get all this stuff around and to make these different changes that we're calling for and looking for. We got to figure that out. And we're not going to do it if we're at each other's throat. We're not going to do it if we're blaming men, if we're blaming women. We're not going to do it if we're attacking each other. We're not going to do it. Crabs in the barrel mentality, climbing on top and over each other. That's not unifying or organizing. That's separation, the superiority over others. So maybe one day maybe one day I'll do a brainstorming session so we can really try to get these things. We can really try to organize our thoughts here about how we actually do this. It's one thing to just sit up on the internet saying this, but let's really try to put something pen to paper, and maybe I'll take some ideas and really create this a manifesto about how to really collectively change the trajectory of where we need to go. And I'll put it up on a website or something along those lines. So you guys think about that. And I definitely want to do that. We'll do that one day. Just a rap session about what we need to go, and all that. I don't think that. I don't think that it's going to take 100 years to do any of that. I think it'll take a generation or two, 40 years maybe. Right? You have to start today. Right? Build school. We start building schools today. Put kids in the school that could change their whole trajectory. And by the time those kids are adults and then they have kids, we can change a lot. We can change a lot. Why every church doesn't have a school, or even if it's why every church doesn't have a school or some type of place where you can educate your people is beyond me. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Yeah. We'll do that. I'll maybe one day in March coming up. We'll set that up. We'll have a rap session about that. Just nothing but ideas, and then we'll write it down and create a manifesto and try to get it published some places and things like that. Just a Black collective where we need to go. That's a good question. How we got to one of the things that I'm saying is now that one of the things I think that we need to do to tap into the Black professionals. The question is, we have Black professionals in almost every industry. How do we tap into the intellectual capital? I think one of the biggest things we have to do is get to the organizations. If there is, I don't even know if there are or not, Black architects, Black plumbers, Black. I know there's definitely Black police officers associations, Black nurses. If there's any of those associations, we start with them and say, hey, listen, here's where we need to do. Here's where we want to go. And before you can join this Black Nurses Association, I don't know if there is one, I'm just saying that. Before you join that association, you have to, here's the bylaws, and you have to agree to these stipulations. And part of the stipulations could be educating your kid with some type of Black history sentiments or whatever. This how I just think you have to start with those. I mean, there's other ways to do it. I'm not saying that's the only thing you should do, but I think that getting the professional people to buy into where we want to go as a community, because that's the purpose of them. We talked about networking and cronyism and collective thinking and all, and community and all that. Well, if you're a Black nurse and a part of an association, and now you need a lawyer, well, you call this Black, we know we can contact the Black lawyers, and then we know they're all in the same type of vein, same thing. And we know we can call maybe the Black police officers, Black firefighters, and we can create bigger networks, I think, right, rather than just being so insular. And the same thing for there's Black Psychologists Association and Black Psychiatrists Association. I know that. So those are just some brainstorming ideas. So yeah, you're right. I'm not disagreeing with you. If we start today, but years of planning got to happen. People on the same page. The schools got to start. We got to build the schools and all that kind of stuff. But the schools can start. I mean, the schools can start on a Saturday afternoon, just talking about Black history. You take up a quick offering or collection or whatever you want to call it, or whatever, and we're gonna build. More people coming in, and we got to build. You got to have it. It can be done. It can be done. Part of it has the equal turnover as well. So all Black professionals should have a mentee, and to be a part of these professional organizations, not only should have a code of ethics, which I'm sure that they do, but you gotta be supportive of the community. The community has to be first. So all right, I think that's pretty much it. Each one teach one. Yeah. Yeah. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I know this was not the usual woman hating, man hating what's going on with us folks, but I thought it was important to talk about this topic, because we gotta recognize we're all we got. This whole thing, diversity, equity, and that's why it's so silly to me that we're talking about boycotting, and we weren't even part of it. It's not like a bunch of people gonna lose their. I mean, I'm sure that there will be some Black folks who are gonna lose their job, but as the data showed you, only 4% of these chief executive officers, 4%, 4% of these chief executive officers are Black, and we talking about boycotting to get what? 4% to 5%. Yeah, you're right. The love of hate is definitely a huge obstacle. We got, and one of the biggest things we got to overcome. Of course, this is gonna be a slow process. Is overcoming our love of ratchet behavior. That is Overcoming our love of ratchet behavior, man. That's that's gonna be crazy. 2020. We are swimming upstream with a paddle. 2025 conversations for you about these topics. People don't tune in though, right? People want to hear about relationships. They want to partner up, and that's to me. And I don't really have a problem with that. Remember, I started this channel talking about self-improvement and all that kind of stuff. Well, I initially started because I want to talk about my journey to get my degree. Then I talked about self-improvement. Now people want to talk about relationships. I don't have a problem with that, but it's got to have some kind of end to it. And we just got a lot of stuff that we got to overcome, and we're not going to overcome this stuff. The reason you can't find a partner, a mate, is because of the psychological damage that has been done to us and the driving apart of this type of thing. The reason, the people who really should tune in really should watch this episode, because I think that I laid it out that the problems that we're dealing with today, that you can't find a mate, is because the mate hasn't been made, particularly for the men. There's not enough of us to go around. And why was that? Because if you go back far enough, when the civil rights actions should have been given to us and to our men, to get our men to go to school and get them jobs and all this kind of stuff, we didn't get it. Right? We got mass incarceration, we got drug laws and all this kind of stuff. And now years later, those children of those people you can't find anybody. And the women went to school, which is good for them. I mean, again, they were fighting this on both sides of this debate, being women and all this kind of stuff, and still being black. And now years later, here we are again, getting fired, getting laid off, talking about boycotts and stuff because of this backlash. It's really a terrible thing, and we keep falling for it, and we're not having the forethought to sit down and think, where and why did all these things happen? Where and why did all these things happen? How come I can't find a man? How come I can't find, how come all the good men are taken, or whatever? It's all crazy, man. It's all crazy. Actually, working with one another on these topics builds community, and community will help you find someone. That's the point. That's the point. That's the point. But I hope the biggest part about that statement is that I hope that it really builds community, and we can really get things done. That's the biggest part that I want. It's great that we all find somebody, but we gotta build community. We gotta build community. Because again, these other people, Trump is going to do what he's going to do, but these other people are going to move in, who are going to get these jobs, and these people from other places, and who are going to come here and get take jobs and move up the corporate chain and all this kind of stuff, because they have faced less social stigma, less racial stigma than we do. It's not 100%. I'm not saying it's 100%. They ain't gonna hire you. They are not gonna hire you. Let's see. I agree on both sides. The psychology kept us apart and our communities away. Absolutely. 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 Well, I appreciate y'all coming in. It's been an hour and 43 minutes. Y'all listen to me talk about this, and I appreciate that. So this coming Sunday, there's no football, so we're going to have a show, and I got Dr. Chris Marsh, who wrote a book. I put out the book a couple of times. Essentially, it's about being black and in the middle class and can't find a man. Being black in the middle class and can't find a man. So that's what that show is going to be about on Friday. It was a good book. It was very similar to Dr. Diane Stewart's book. A little more technical, but it was good. So, all right, y'all. Yes, please like, share, subscribe. I really appreciate it. I will see you guys on Sunday. Actually, I think I have a video releasing on Friday, and then I'll see you guys on Sunday. So y'all take care of yourselves. Much love and peace. Are we reading it before Sunday? If you can get it through it. It's kind of a dense book. I told you about this months ago. But you can certainly buy it. I mean, we'll talk about it. I mean, I audio booked it just like I did the other one, so you can certainly get it. Let me pull it up here for y'all. Oh, yeah, okay, you're joking. Well, somebody might not know. Share screen. So this is the book, The Love Jones Cohort, Cambridge Studies, Stratification, Economics, Social Identity. This is the book, Single and Living Alone in the Middle Class, Dr. Chris Marsh. So Love Jones Cohort. That's the book. So I audio booked it. So y'all can check it out. What is the name of the book, please? Yeah, that's it. Great show. Thank you, Sassy Red Cutie. Any book I can get an audio book, I'm going to do that from now on. So yeah. So it's a little technical. She goes through a lot of stats. So yeah, she goes through a lot of stats. So but I definitely highly recommend it. So she's coming on the show on Sunday, 7:30. So all right, y'all. I'll see you guys. Take care. Much love and peace.